Hey you folks, welcome back for yet another build video. This time around we are revisiting an older build where we're looking at what is the maximum number of red cores. So the maximum weapon cores that you can put on one build. And as I said in that original build, which I will of course link to, this is something of a thought experiment. It's not entirely meant to maximize your damage. Obviously, to do that, you're going to want to look at multiplicative talents along with crit hit chance and crit hit damage, or another route would be obviously a headshot build where you're stacking a bunch of headshot damage. This is more meant as just baseline damage. How high can we get it? What does that look like? Is it viable? My overall conclusion in that first version was, yeah, it really is. It feels kind of fun. And part of the reason for that was the Mementos 3-core setup, which we now also have with the NinjaBike Messenger Backpack. So I thought this was a great time to revisit this build, see if we get any additional cores with the resourceful talent. And the spoiler answer there is right off the top, yes, we do actually improve the core count from our original build. Now let's walk through how we did that. So as with some of my other NinjaBike Messenger Bag videos, this one's going to be a little bit quicker. I'm not going to be belaboring the point on pieces of gear or item choices that didn't change at all. Rather, I'm going to focus the time on pieces that changed, talk about why they changed, and whether or not they improved the overall product. So starting off, no change here. Technician specialization for two main reasons: skill tier and the Artificer Hive. Likewise, all of our weapons remain the same, with our primary weapon being the capacitor and its lovely capacitance talent, which is one of the main ways we can buff our weapon damage core count, gaining half a weapon core for each skill tier that we have on this build. Our secondary weapon we have is the mop, and our sidearm we've got the TDI card for whenever you need to switch to it to buff that skill tier count even higher. For our mask, we have our first change here. So on the original build, we had Grupa Sombra here for the 15% critical hit damage. But this time around, we've gone with Walker Harris & Co., specifically because of the NinjaBike Messenger Bag giving us those 2 brand bonuses on each piece of gear. As you can see down there, all 5 of our gear pieces outside of the NinjaBike Messenger Bag are different brand sets to get different brand set bonuses, to get that maximum 10 brand set bonuses on one build, with all of them focused on buffing that red weapon damage core count. So with Walker Harris & Co., we get 5% weapon damage, which amounts to a third of a weapon core in my quick math here. And then we also have the standard weapon core, as well as crit hit damage and crit hit chance in the attribute slots, and crit hit damage in the mod slot. And that is going to be consistent throughout, similar to the previous build. Obviously, the focus was a thought experiment of what's the max number of red cores that you can possibly have, but on top of that, we also want to make it a usable build. So when you're stacking this much weapon damage on a build, you're going to be running around with the capacitor on. Going with an overall crit hit build is a great way to go. For our backpack, we have the aforementioned NinjaBike Messenger Backpack, 3 core count of weapon damage, armor, and skill. And then on top of that, we have a critical hit damage mod in the mod slot. And as you can see there, we have the now well-known talent of Resourceful, granting us those additional brand set bonuses on this build. And then for anyone keeping track, we have a weapon damage core and a skill tier here, which amounts to 1.5 weapon damage cores for the capacitor. For our chest piece, we have the Sacrifice that is unchanged. The only difference here is now we are also picking up the 10% crit hit chance brand bonus, as well as the 15% headshot damage bonus. But otherwise, we still have that weapon damage core, crit hit chance damage, and the perfect glass cannon talent, which I didn't include in the maximum weapon core count, but it obviously is applying 30% extra damage on top of everything that we're going to get from this build. For our gloves, we switched up here and gone with contractor's gloves. So this is one note I want to make. This build you're seeing here isn't technically the highest red cores that you can have. In order to have the absolute max, what you want to do is actually go with Y'all gloves here, because that would give you an additional plus 5% weapon damage. The trouble with that is Y'all is a almost entirely Dark Zone exclusive brand set, and on top of that, it comes with an armor core attribute. So in order to do this build justice, you'd have to get a pair of Y'all gloves, already have crit hit chance and crit hit damage in the attribute slots so that you can re-roll that main core to weapon damage. And quite honestly, you're somewhat wasting that first brand bonus of 10% hazard protection. And while we obviously are also wasting the first brand bonus here of LMG damage, that 10% weapon handling feels absolutely fantastic. On top of which we get that 8% damage to armor attribute. So overall, we've got 13% damage to armor stacked on this build. And honestly, I just felt that was a better composition for this build and a better use of time than you guys all having to go run out and farm a nearly perfect piece of Y'all gear. So this really was my one compromise to pure max weapon core count. Just know that, again, obviously, if you want the absolute maximum, Y'all is the way to go here. But in some brief testing, I felt it was more usable and more attainable to go with contractor gloves here. For our holster, we have the same piece that we had on the original build, Picara's holster, with that core attribute rerolled to a skill tier and crit hit chance in the attribute slot. But now with the NinjaBike Messenger bag, we're getting both the first and second brand bonuses on just this one piece, which actually makes this a 2 weapon core gear piece, because we're getting the weapon damage core in the attribute slot there and 2 skill tiers, which amount to an additional weapon core. So that feels pretty fantastic. And then also frees up our knee pad slot, which previously had a Brazos Arquebus piece with weapon damage rolled in the core attribute. Now we can go with Fenris Group AB, grab that 10% assault rifle damage, which I am going to go ahead and count towards that max weapon cores. There was some conversation in the comment section about this idea in the last video. It's another way that, again, last time out, I went with Grupo Sombra and Sescavaroba to buff that crit hit chance and crit hit damage. And that was my concession in that build. Obviously, if you're going for a more max weapon core count, you would have gone with Fenris Group in that build. This time around, we don't have to compromise because we're getting the first and second brand bonuses with the Brazos de Arquebus. We can swap this piece to Fenris Group AB, grab that 10% assault rifle damage, and then we also get 20% reload speed, which I will say feels absolutely fantastic. And then one note here, we obviously have armor regen instead of crit hit chance. That's just the piece I had. Obviously, if you want to maximize your damage output, you're going to want to go with crit hit chance there. But even with that concession, we're still rocking about 56% crit hit chance and right around 160% crit hit damage. So we're doing quite all right. So now with this revised version of our max red core count build, we are all the way up to 9.3, 9 1/3 weapon cores, and that's not including the glass cannon buff. That is just pure weapon cores plus the assault rifle damage from Fenris Group. That's the one slightly non-weapon core that we're including. The version you see here, as we just talked about, only gives you 9 weapon cores. To max it out, you would want to go with Y'all. Then you have to give up 8% damage to armor, which I felt was a better way to go. Obviously, you may feel differently. Our first skills down here, these are completely unchanged. We have the Artificer Hive and the Crusader Ballistic Shield, both of which still feel as good as they did in the version 1. You've got that 5-tier shield and that tier 4 Artificer Hive buffing that shield, both of which feel far better than they have any right to, given that this is a 9 weapon core build. Count them out with me. We have the 5 weapon cores shown there, plus 1 from Picara's holster in the attribute slot. Then we get 2 more from our 4 skill tiers and the capacitance talent. And then that last one is cobbled together with 5% from Walker Harris and 10% from Fenris Group. Obviously, if you want to hit the absolute max of 9 1/3 weapon cores, you're going to want to swap those contractor's gloves for Y'all gear. Even this version, you're peaking at 9 weapon cores, 1 armor core, and 4 skill tiers, not even including the glass cannon talent, which is going to buff that weapon damage even further. So go out there, take this one for a spin. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you go with contractor's gloves or Y'all gear. I'm really curious to see what you guys decide to do, whether you're purists and go with the Y'all gear, or if you go this route and go with contractor's gloves. I think either one is a fantastic choice. This feels like a great build and has a flexible number of options to go in a variety of different ways. Once you take it for a spin, let me know in the comments what you think. Thank you as always for watching, and we will see you in the next one.
detected. Nearby location, guarded by hostiles.
Gotcha.
Detecting additional hostile contacts.